It's a perfect, beautiful day, and we are setting out on our first big official vacation since the pandemic happened. We've been lucky enough to do some weekend trips, but this is like our first big extended trip, so we are really, really excited. Ready?
Yep, ready to go.
Okay. Unfortunately, no Redford on this trip. He is hanging out with the grandparents. We all met already. Really miss him, but we're just trying to be excited. It's the hard part when you drop off the dog.
So don't let the weight of the world slow you down. And if you search for the meaning of life, it won't be found. So take your insecurities and leave them all behind. Let's learn to make the most of our time. Of our time.
We headed over the bridge through Philadelphia just as the sun was going down. We were going to the Philadelphia Westchester KOA, and this is located just north of Kennett Square, which is where we were actually going. This KOA has a variety of campsites. Some of them are right along the Brandywine Creek. They also have pull-through sites and cabins. I smell campfires. Right. Chicken.
Where am I going? Straight? At the dump station.
Okay, we put 2 leveling blocks under the other side. Got us pretty level. And then a few things got thrown around. We forgot to take some of the stuff that was like clothing and stuff that was hanging on the hooks up here. So from the hooks up here, that stuff fell off. We're supposed to take that off before we moved, kind of forgot. But under here with the cargo net, it held the extra bag of food down here really well. Those are my clothes that I forgot to take off the hook. The stuff that I put in the sink in this folding bucket stayed really well. I was worried about that with those crazy Philadelphia roads. The pillows got thrown around a little bit, but they stayed on the bed, so that's pretty good. Especially considering those roads. We took a different way this time because the roads last time like rattled the heck out of the Scamp. And now we've been having a little bit of issue with our electrical system. And we think it's because the roads were they were that bad. We were like cringing every time we would hit something. Fridge pretty good. Okay, packed in there. We will settle in. We are right next to the bathrooms, so it's actually one of the reasons we wanted to stay at the KOA our first night. The showers that we had when we were in Lancaster were quite nice. We are taking things pretty slow this morning. Just slept a little late. We went to bed pretty late from, driving and then setting up and eating after we got here. So we're just taking it slow, kind of getting our vacation legs. We don't have to be in Longwood until 2, so we took a walk, and now I'm going to make some sort of breakfast. It's almost lunch. But it's perfect weather. So we're just hanging out. We decided to spend our first night of the trip at this KOA because it's the closest campground to Longwood Gardens. We've been to Longwood Gardens many times. We make it our Christmas tradition that we go to walk around there when they have everything covered in the holiday lights. But we haven't been there in the past couple of years, and they recently redid their main fountains, and it is just a spectacular display of lights and fountains and music. So we were excited that this time we were actually going to stay until after dark to see the full fountain display. This whole area outside of Philadelphia is just an interesting area. It's very farmy and there's a lot of old buildings and old bridges, but There's a lot of stuff to do and a lot of history in this area, so it's a great place to visit and still driving distance into Philadelphia. Make sure if you're going to visit Longwood Gardens on a busy day like during the holidays or a Saturday like we were, you have to buy your tickets ahead, especially now because they're limiting the number of tickets, and on this particular day they were completely sold out, so we were happy that we purchased them ahead of time. You go toward the bells?
Yeah, check out
that tower. The Eye of Water sits at the back of the chime tower and the waterfall. And this is actually what feeds down into the waterfall on this mound that was built up using the dirt that was excavated from building the fountains. We go in here?
Yeah.
Before we take a look at the newly renovated fountains, we wanted to stop in the historic pump house. This shows the amazing engineering that went into creating these fountains. The construction was between 1930 and 1931. Pierre DuPont and his team created this system that was capable of moving 10,000 gallons of water per minute, and the jets could push the water 130 feet up into the air. This system was continuously used until 2014. Whenever we're at Longwood Gardens, I always marvel at the amount of work that it must take to keep up with these gardens because they always look perfect. We came over to the student exhibits, and there was an exhibit about the South Jersey Pine Barrens and its relationship with wildfires.
Do they have ticks in here?
They should have ticks or it's not authentic. They have blueberries.
Yeah.
There's no ticks crawling off of them. Our mascot, the tick. One of my favorite things about visiting Longwood Gardens is that you could walk miles and miles exploring the property, or you can find a quiet area with a bench and just sit and watch the flowers and the birds and soak in all of the beauty that's around you. And it's not all perfectly manicured gardens. There's a large meadow in the back with wildflowers. From the meadow, we headed around the far side through these beautiful rhododendron bushes that were in full bloom to one of my other favorite spots in Longwood Gardens, the Italian Water Garden. This is a fountain that was inspired by Pierre DuPont's travels around the world. You could definitely pack a lunch and bring a blanket, find a corner of the grounds to have a nice picnic. But Longwood also has a great cafe that we like to stop at whenever we're here. They have pretty fresh and healthy food, but the ordering system was slightly different because of COVID. They have an order by phone system that we used. By this time it was getting slightly less crowded, and we wanted to head back over to the Chime Towers. This is one of the most popular areas in Longwood, and it was very crowded when we got there, so we knew we were going to wait a little bit and then come back around.
In North America, there are nearly 200 carillons, with 8 in and around Philadelphia. Longwood's carillon combines centuries-old casting techniques with modern technology. Royal Ice Fountain's unit is made of sand and cement, coated to be fireproof. On top of this, a false bell is modeled in sand and wax on the floor. This temporary bell is identical to the ultimate bronze bell.
We still had quite a bit of time to wait until it got dark when the big fountain show starts. So we figured we would find a spot toward the back where it was quiet and we could put the blanket out and relax for a little while. Now, up until this point, Patrick had been kind of distracted and out of sorts, and I just chalked it up to the first day of vacation and being kind of tired, but I was about to find out what the real situation was.
I think this is my favorite section.
You like it over here?
Back here.
Yeah. We always gravitate toward the areas that are less crowded.
Carrying that around.
We found this very nice quiet spot toward the back in the oak and conifer knoll. There was this spectacular tree that I thought looked so nice I wanted to get a shot in front of it. But then Patrick said that I should switch the camera and put it in the tree, which is very unusual. And then I figured out why he wanted that angle. Patrick got me an antique 3-stone diamond ring, and the setting reminds me of the fountains at Longwood Gardens. Yeah, it does. You glad you get to relax now?
Yeah, the chap's done. That's why you do it on day 2. So you don't have to worry about losing it or thinking about it. So we're good now.
I thought you were acting a little nervous. Good spot.
Yeah.
It's a good spot. I like this tree. We went over to take a picture by this tree because we wanted to remember this location. All the memories that we have at Longwood Gardens and all the places that we like to visit when we're here, this is going to be our favorite, so we can remember the day that we got engaged. Now, with Patrick feeling much more relaxed, we went back out to walk around and explore the gardens. We made our way toward the Conservatory, this giant glass building that sits in front of the main fountains. And this is one of our favorite places to visit, especially in the winter, but it's really nice any time of year. This large enclosed glass structure, and there are also some interesting historical things inside. Do you want to go walk through the conservatory?
Yeah.
Okay. As we were walking into the conservatory to our favorite area with these hanging purple flowers and big palm trees, we ran into another couple who had the same camera as us, a Canon, and they asked us to take a picture of them, and then he took a picture for us. So these are our unofficial engagement pictures, and he might have been a professional photographer because they came out pretty well. At the back of the conservatory is a formal ballroom built in 1929, and the area just behind it houses the pipe organ. It's funny. Of all the things Atlantic City gets a claim to fame for.
It's pretty cool. The whole thing's an instrument. The pipes go all the way back, and the compressors and everything else. And this is where they do it. This is where the controls are. They still open it up once in a while, so you can actually hear it. Like, it's really cool.
Go check that out one day.
Yeah.
learn how to play?
I don't think that I've been in here before.
No, we've never came back here.
I don't think it was open.
Oh, maybe not. After checking out the conservatory, we went back outside to find our space for the other main event of the day, which was watching the full fountain show. These are the newly renovated fountain gardens, and we haven't been here in several years since it was redone, so this is our first time seeing them. And we've never stayed until after dark to see the full fountain and light and water show, so today we were going to stay. And even before the main show, they do these little mini shows every few minutes. And because of monetization, I can't let you hear the music, but just imagine that there's some really fun Beatles music playing in the background, and the fountains are synchronized to it. It is a very fun show to watch.
Jets and streams. After dark, the fountains are lit by more than 1,000 red, blue, green, yellow, cyan, and lime-colored LED lights. With an endless color range, the most up-to-date fountain technologies, and a setting like no other, the main fountain garden is the ultimate garden spectacular.
We found a good spot on the lawn to relax and wait for it to get dark for the full fountain show to start. All of the mini fountain shows leading up to the main show don't use any of the colored lights, but you do get to see how neat the actual fountains are and all of the incredible engineering and planning that goes into this. There are so many components. At first we had put our blanket down at the top lawn, and we thought that would give us a good view, but then after walking around a little bit, we saw that you could go into the center grassy area so that you were actually surrounded by all the fountains. And we relocated because it was such a neat experience sitting there, and every direction that you looked around you, there were these amazing fountains. And that was before the actual show had even started. Because of copyright, I have to take the music out, but just imagine that there is really fun music playing in the background. It looks like cotton candy.
Yeah.
I am so glad that we took the time to wait until it got dark to see the full fountain show. It was completely worth it, and it was just the best ending to such a special day. The site we ended up at is pretty nice because we're on the end, and we got the wooded site, so it's actually pretty secluded, and we're on the corner. There's nobody on the other side of us. It's just like a little storage lot. It was slightly challenging pulling in because we were on a curve and then an uphill probably a little hard to see. It's like a weird grade here. So it took, I think Pat got it on like the third try. Coming back from here and avoiding our friend the stump. But getting out will be a little interesting because we have to go up this rather steepish gravel hill. Not really used to any sort of grade changes. But we'll take a walk down later to the river and kind of show you the campsites over there. It's neat because you can camp right next to the water, but everybody's right on top of each other and there's no privacy, so that's why we like this site so much. We're kind of tucked back into the woods, and there's a ton of birds around here. It's neat. These are the really cute little cabins. They have some bigger lake park models, and then there's the water down this hill. Right behind campsite 103, between the cabin, there's a little walking trail. I'm gonna go check it out. I guess all KOAs are dog friendly, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Probably. That's nice. I appreciate that. Especially going out of their way to have a dog run area. That's nice. Makes me miss Redford. Okay, we are all packed up, secured, and ready to head out. We wanted to wait until kind of the last minute because it's about 2 hours to our next spot and we can't check in until after 3. So we're just gonna have to maybe kill a little bit of time in between there. We'll see how we do at the hill.
Not whining too much.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm impressed. Good job, Jeep. We left the Philadelphia Westchester KOA and had about a 2.5-hour drive farther north into Pennsylvania. We were going to a campground that was sort of close to Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. This was an area that we wanted to stop at on the trip because we had both been there as kids, but that was quite a while ago. And it's a great place for outdoor activities. I think one of our favorite things about having the camper is when we're on the road, we can just stop at a rest stop. And we had lunch already. I made shrimp salad before we left, and then we ate that. And now we're making coffee, so we don't even have to go into the rest stop. And then look, we have a friend. This little fiberglass U-Haul pulled up next to us.
Very
Cute.
rare.
Yeah, I know. Adorable. Tinier than ours.
Being pulled by a Porsche.
So I feel like this whole process just makes traveling that much more relaxing because we're just sitting here. There's a nice breeze.
Turn
Had
the
our
fans
food.
on.
It's comfortable.
Refrigerator.
Snacks. It's nice. After we had lunch and coffee, we continued our drive north in Pennsylvania, and we got to go through this very cool Lehigh Tunnel. It goes right through the mountains. And it was such an enjoyable drive being in a mountainy area because after living in South Jersey for so many years, everything is so flat. Whenever we get to these rolling hills and farms of the countryside, it's such an enjoyable drive.
Right, then your destination will be on the right.
Fish fry.
There was a little bit of confusion during the check-in process, but we got that sorted out, and went across this adorable covered bridge to the other side of the stream, and we were lucky enough to have a site right on the water. When we got to the spot, it was just a little bit confusing trying to figure out where we were supposed to park, but the seasonal people who were right next to us were very nice and pointed us in the right direction and then moved their truck over so that we were able to pull in more easily. See if anything moved. Actually, pretty good. The game of did everything stay in place? Actually, pretty well. We'll put the bed back together. Our shoes moved a little bit, but that's it. Alright, getting better. Once we had the Scamp all set up, we took a walk around the property to see the rest of the sites. There are a lot of seasonal campers here, but there were quite a few spots that were open, and we enjoyed walking around next to the stream. Very, very pretty. Cold. They also have a pavilion where they hold events and a pool in the center of the camping area, but we were here on a weekday, so it was very quiet. So I'm gonna try a different sort of dinner with the Onmia because we got the new silicone liner. So we're gonna see if I can make like a potato and cheese and like peppers and onions kind of thing. I'm pretty excited about it. Cheating though. I'm using pre-cut instead of fresh. We walked around. The property is really pretty, especially around the back. There's the stream kind of like wanders through the property. Really pretty.
Yeah, pretty picturesque. They have full-time sites, I believe, too.
I think it seems like it's mostly seasonal sites. I think when we came in, people were like, "Oh, who are these people?"
Just like if they came to our place.
Yeah, so we're pretty close to Hickory Run, which I don't know. I don't remember seeing that when I was doing the research for this, but that was back in February, so I don't even remember. I was just looking around at campgrounds, and especially because, you know, this was the busy RV year, so I was like, anything that I could book, I was just gonna grab.
Yeah, we're about 45 minutes from Jim Thorpe. So the idea tomorrow is that we go to Hickory Run in the morning, and then Jim Thorpe after that, get dinner. Which I haven't been there since I was like 21.
Yeah, we went there when I was a kid,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think like 7th or 8th grade, so
Yeah.
It's been a while. And this is definitely the first time we've had the camper out where the weather is actually nice. Like even all through April, when we took the camper out, it was always cold. It's gonna be hard to fit the cheese. Okay, there it is. It's about 10 after 6 right now, so we'll see how long it takes to actually cook. And we'll hang out by the stream. It is really nice that we're actually waterfront. I did not realize that we were going to be right on the little stream here. And, oh, the ducks left. We had like 3 ducks. They were over here earlier. Hopefully they come back. I don't know, but they're eating something in there. Must be pretty good. Okay. I think it's as done as it's gonna get. I need to bring tinfoil to wrap around the bottom because the wind has been, I think, taking some of the heat away from it, but it's been on just about an hour. So we're gonna try it, hopefully. Hopefully it's done. All right.
Very good.
Good. Pretty good spot to eat dinner too.
Yeah.
The next morning I woke up early to this very pretty sunrise and the sound of the stream right behind our trailer. But I was also pretty excited to try a new recipe that we were going to make for breakfast with the Onmia oven. Should we pretend that you're cooking breakfast? I got everything prepped last night. Our goal is to try to get out decently early today. So I took the potatoes from the bake last night. I put eggs in there, like scrambled eggs. The rest of the turkey bacon, and then Pat's just putting cheese on the top. And it's gonna go on the stove while we sit here and drink our coffee.
Just hoping it's not frozen.
Yeah, sometimes the fridge does get too cold. We have to really watch what number we put it on. And it depends when it's on gas or electric. I forget which. I guess the gas is stronger. It'll freeze stuff.
Everything in there will be frozen.
Alright, so we'll see how long this will take. But my favorite thing about this campsite is you can hear the water. Since we're right on the little river, we woke up this morning to the ducks. They were like right behind our camper, like rah, rah, rah. But then they went away and we went back to sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the finished product. And the potatoes last night were good, but this is really good. This might actually be my new favorite breakfast. And we get to enjoy it looking out at our little stream here. After our very good breakfast, we were able to get out relatively early. And we started the 35-minute drive from Moyers Grove Campground to Hickory Run State Park. We wanted to go to Hickory Run for a couple of reasons. They have some nice hiking trails. We found a good trail on the All Trails app that has waterfalls, and it was rated pretty well. And they also have a very interesting boulder field. On the way into the park, we stopped at the visitor center, and we were actually very impressed. It looks like it's brand new, and the displays inside are so well done. The exhibit in the visitor center really felt like a display in a bigger natural history museum, but it was full of interesting information about the local area and the plants and animals and insects that you would find there. Is it an otter?
Yeah.
Oh.
You can look at the fish. That's where they like to hide. And that's what they like to eat. Very good.
Maybe it's Wilbur's cousin. Maybe we should skip the boulder field. I really enjoyed their collection of vintage park artwork, but Patrick was looking for something a little bit more interactive.
Oh, it has little sayings on it, little information.
Is it heavy?
It was about 200 pounds.
You got it with one hand.
One hand.
Like it's nothing. Fox? Oh. We didn't have time to visit the Lehigh Gorge State Park on this trip because we wanted to fit a hike in. We picked the Shades of Death Trail along a stream. It's a very, very nice new visitor center. I don't remember that the last time I was here. I think that's all probably new since I was here, oh gosh, 8-9 years ago. But we're gonna do the Shades of Death Trail because it's a shorter trail. It has some waterfalls, I think, and it's right next to a stream, so it's nice. And since today's Monday, the parking area is pretty open. 11:30 right now,
Yeah.
and they said 12.
Yeah.
It's 12. They said not to get here too late because it would fill up, but there's still spots. And porta potties, which is nice. This trail gets its interesting name from the thick forest and the rough terrain that the early settlers in this area had to contend with. In the paperwork for the park, this trail is rated as being difficult because there are a lot of roots and there are some steep drop-offs next to the trail, so you do have to watch your footing. In terms of the overall scope of hiking, it's not a terribly difficult trail, but you do have to be careful. One of the interesting things about the Shades of Death Trail is you go past 3 different dams, some of which date back to the early 1800s. When we go hiking, we like to think about how much effort we put into the hike versus how much of a reward that you get for that effort. And in terms of this trail, you are hiking just about a mile each way, and it is constantly interesting. Waterfalls, dams, little cascades, rhododendrons. So it's a very high reward for not too much effort. We go up this way?
Pretty much a brand new visitor center, and roads kind of suck in PA, but the parks are good.
The roads were bumpy,
Yeah.
but hiking trails are good, so that's what counts.
Yeah.
The 3 ponds at Sand Spring Run above the dams are very popular areas for trout fishing, and we saw quite a few people fishing when we were on our hike. It's a very interesting trail, a lot of different views, waterfalls, pond, spillways, beautiful rhododendrons next to the stream, and lots of like rocks and roots to climb over, which I think makes the trail more fun. So we parked down at the other end in the small parking area along the road, but you can actually park at the visitor center and just go out from the back. So that's a nice option if that parking is full. It'd be a lot easier to get parking up here. Right across from the visitor center is a little camp store, and Pat went in to check it out. He said they have all sorts of
Everything.
camping stuff, ice cream.
I had to watch the backpack because you could not knock stuff over. That's how packed it was.
Pretty tight. Okay, so now we're just gonna head back down exactly where we were before, to the back of the visitor center, back to the car. That was a nice hike. Perfect length.
Yeah.
So we got to have fun and not so tired that we can't do something else today.
Yeah.
That's the trick.
Yeah. Miles.
2.5.
3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
Really?
Just a little extra we did, yeah.
Oh yeah, because we went all the way up.
Yeah.
That's nice. All right, so now the plan is to go check out the Boulder field, which is kind of what this area is known for. After a bit of a drive down a long bumpy dirt road, you come to Hickory Run's Boulder field. This is a very unique geological formation. The bedrock in this area was broken into different sized boulders by this freezing and thawing cycle. You walk through what seems like a very normal forest in Pennsylvania, and then all of a sudden the trees just stop and there's a whole area covered in rocks.
Cool sound when they rock.
Some of them move.
Yeah, when they move.
I wonder how many people have broken an ankle out here. This was about 30 minutes south from Hickory Run. Jim Thorpe has a rather small historic downtown that was quite congested. Absolutely no parking.
No, absolutely no parking. Even there's parking spots?
Yeah.
No.
They said absolutely not. Don't even think about it. We drove around for a bit trying to find parking very unsuccessfully. We figured out that parking is a very hot commodity in this area, and we ended up going back down toward the train station. It was tricky trying to find parking, so we just gave up and went to the paid lot. Once we had the car parked, we walked up Broadway, which is the main street through historic Jim Thorpe. We were going up toward the Mauch-Chunk Opera House, and this is a place where they have comedy shows and musicians and all sorts of performances, lots of cover bands. Right next to it is the Marion Hose Bar and Restaurant. It is a unique setting because it's in an old firehouse, and they had nice outdoor seating, so we decided to have dinner here, and I'm glad we did. The food was American fare, but it was actually very unique. I had this stew that was very good. We walked back down to the car. We were getting pretty tired at this point. We had really packed a lot into the day, and we still had to drive from Jim Thorpe back to our campground. Come back and do some biking.
Yeah.
Last night when we got back from Jim Thorpe, we showered, which was great. I have to say the bathrooms here are surprisingly nice. Hot shower. I was actually able to wash my hair, which might not sound like a big deal to some people, but my hair is really long right now. It's a process, and you need enough hot water and enough water pressure to actually get all the shampoo out. So I was really happy that I got to do that. Usually by the end of the trip, I just start braiding my hair because it's a lost cause. So it was a good shower, and the bathrooms are really clean. And after that, we were just kind of like, oh, let's just sit in a scamp, and we caught up on our YouTube videos. So we were laughing because we're in our RV on an RV trip, and then we just sat there for a little while watching our favorite RV YouTubers do their thing in their RVs, and I was like, man, I guess we really like RVing.
It can be a sickness, I guess.
We can't get enough of it. It's funny. But that was nice because we did a lot of stuff yesterday, and then I was just kind of tired.
Yeah, this fourth night we really got a good sleep in.
We didn't get woken up by the goose.
Yeah.
There was no squawking this morning. I thought maybe that was going to be like an every morning thing.
Yeah.
We actually, we slept really well last night.
Out.
That was great.
Yeah.
We got the scamp all packed up because it was time to move to our third location of this trip in Pennsylvania. We were going from Moyers Grove Campground to Ricketts Glen, and this ended up being our favorite part of the trip. Before we head out of Moyers Grove Campground, I just wanted to give you a quick tour of the bathroom because this was one of the things that I was really impressed with for this campground. It looks more like the type of bathroom that you might find in a KOA. Good hot water, good water pressure, so we definitely enjoyed that. It always makes the camping experience and coming back to the campground nicer. They also have a pool and a volleyball court, which we didn't get to take advantage of, but overall they have a really nice property and a great location to access things in the area. So we're getting ready to head out right now. We're going from Moyers Grove up to Ricketts Glen, which the nice thing is it's a short drive today. It's under an hour, just almost about an hour. Pat's dumping the tanks right now. This was an interesting experience, a different kind of family-run campground than what we've stayed at before. We've done a lot of like state parks, county parks, things like that. So what I will say is the property is beautiful. On a weekday, it's really quiet here. And I think that was my experience when I stayed at a campground where there were a lot of seasonal people. During the weekday, it gets really quiet. Now, I can't say the same for the weekend. I have no idea. Sometimes places that have a lot of regulars will be kind of like party campers on the weekend. That was my experience in the past when I stayed at Egg Harbor Lake Campground in New Jersey, but who knows. The one thing that I will say though is the check-in process was not smooth. It's very old-fashioned, and we stayed at one campground before where you had to call on the phone to make a reservation, and that was Starlight Campground in Lancaster, and that was fine. We loved that campground. It was great. We ran into an issue with the check-in here where they had trouble finding our reservation at first. Their check-in system or their computer is very old. They couldn't find my name, and then I had the paper and we were looking for the reservation number. It was a thing. And then I had actually mailed them a check because I remember looking for a stamp because I don't mail things very often. So I was like, do we have a stamp? So back in February, I had mailed them a check to hold the reservation, and they couldn't find that. And I couldn't check my bank account because I didn't have any service here. So it was a little bit clunky at check-in. That got resolved. We're looking forward to our 3 days at Ricketts Glen, especially because there's so much hiking that we can do from that area. Here we really had to drive, and it was a little bit of extra time in the car, like going into Jim Thorpe and doing all the exploring yesterday, but it's a good day. I feel like we crammed a lot in yesterday. That's why we were so tired by the end of the day. But yeah, looking forward to our 3 days at Ricketts Glen. What I learned from this process is that I have to do a better job of keeping track of reservations and records and payments because I can't assume that I'm going to have cell service to be able to check on something when I get to the campground. I think the contrast of staying at the KOA where check-in is always just a breeze to staying at a family-run campground is just something I need to keep in mind. As we got close to Ricketts Glen State Park, we had another challenge to face, which was the very steep grade going into the park. It may not look like much on camera, but the 18% grade getting into Ricketts Glen was quite the challenge for the Jeep, especially towing the Scamp. The downside of having such a short drive from one campsite to the other is that you end up having a little bit of time to kill in between. So we checked out the visitor center at Ricketts Glen. Not quite as fancy as Hickory Run, but we learned some things about the long history of logging in the area and some of the old tools that they used to cut down the trees when lumber was a big moneymaker in this area. After spending some time checking out the visitor center, we headed into the campground to see if our site was open. We would be able to check in a bit early, and we felt like we were ready to get settled. During one of the busiest RVing seasons so far, I felt like we were very lucky to get a waterfront site at this campground. So we made it to Ricketts Glen and very happy with our campsite. I couldn't really tell when I booked it online if we were going to have a view of the water, but we definitely can see the lake right out the back here, which is so nice. Very glad that we're here for 3 nights. It is rather chilly and windy right now. I have my puffy and my extra fuzzy fleece on. It's pretty overcast and the breeze is coming right off the lake, so it's pretty chilly out. Kind of wish our heater was working. That's a whole other thing though. So 3 nights here, no hookups. Pat is setting up the solar panels, so we'll have a little bit of electricity. We couldn't fill up the tank when we were driving around the loop. That particular water filling station was not working, so we're going to do the old-fashioned hand fill where we have our 5-gallon container, and the Scamp has this nice little hookup in the back where you can just pour the water right into the tank, so that'll be fun. I'm going to start making some food because I'm pretty hungry. we stopped at the store in between to kind of refresh some of our fruit and vegetables. And it's always weird on moving day, so we had to leave the last place by 12, and then we weren't able to check in here until 3 technically, but when we got to the office it was around 2, and the park ranger said, you know, if the site's open you can go in, but technically there's no check-in until 3. So you kind of end up with this weird time in between that you might not be able to check in yet, but you're trying to just like do things. So it was nice that we got to go to the store in between anyway. And then luckily the other people were already out, so we were able to park and get settled a little early. So I'm going to start making some food. We braved the wind and the chilly weather for a little while so that we could sit outside and enjoy our meal with a view of the lake. It really was a very nice spot. But we did notice the other side of the campground was definitely less windy.
Kind of cool how this area is like a good hiking, waterfalls, but you can kayak too, swim.
It's a lot of activities.
A lot, yeah. Fishing.
And the sites are pretty secluded depending on which one you get.
Yeah.
Even for waterfront.
Seems like you can kind of make do with each site to get, you know, have your little nook, your little own area.
So this would be our pick if we were camping with the kayaks. This site right here, really nice. You're on the end, you got the water. And then here's where you throw in the boats. So you might get a little traffic, but
not
good
too much.
spot.
Yeah, it can't be too much.
I think they said the cabins are open in the winter. That would be really neat if they have heat. I wonder if they're like the ones in Delaware. Maybe we'll do this next winter. Maybe our yearly New Year's Eve trip.
There you go. Make it a tradition.
It's still pretty windy outside, so we decided to come into the camper. We showered, which was pretty good. Pretty hot showers. And I was like, well, I'm kind of on a roll with cooking, so I made breakfast for tomorrow. These little egg muffins I put some puff pastry in the bottom, and I think they came out really well. And then it's just eggs, onion, tomato, and a little bit of cheese. So that'll be breakfast before we go hiking. Get some calories in. But I decided to make the meal that I was actually going to make for my birthday, but some of the tomatoes and spinach are probably not going to make it. So I'm doing it tonight. And this is what's happening in the Onmia right now. This deliciousness. I wish you could smell it. It smells awesome. So this is just cherry tomatoes cut up, 3 cloves of garlic, some olive oil, and I put a little bit of cayenne pepper because I like a little spice to it. And that's it. So then we kind of go through this 2-step process of making the sauce. I'm going to add some goat cheese and wait about 10 minutes, and then we'll add some spinach, just enough to cook the spinach, and then we throw that on pasta, and it's awesome. I feel like these tomatoes by themselves would be really good. But then when you throw the goat cheese on, it's when it turns it into like a really yummy cheese sauce, or like a creamy sauce. Okay, so the goat cheese cooked in, and now I'm just going to throw the spinach on top, and that just takes a couple minutes to wilt, and it'll get mixed into the sauce, and then the shrimp will be done, and then we're ready. And once the spinach is like wilted in there, it's good to go. It is so creamy and so flavorful. It's ridiculous. For like just a few ingredients, it's kind of amazing. And I've made this at home in the oven. I feel like you could do it in the Dutch oven too if you don't have an Onmia. But I wanted to try it in here, and it came out just as good as when I make it at home. And then you can throw protein of your choice. We've put it over, we did, what was it, like lobster and crab ravioli. Oh, yeah. That was amazing. We made shrimp today. You could do chicken. I feel like I would eat this stuff on cardboard. Not bad for camping food, huh?
Not bad for home food.
Yeah, I know, right? That's true. I do make this at home. But it's nice to have the option to eat in this camp because it is like windy and unpleasant outside. You know, it's doable if we were in a tent, but the Scamp just gives us that option of like being comfortable and not sitting in the wind while we're eating. So that's nice. All right, let's eat. These egg muffin things and pastry are like my new favorite thing. They are so good. I even burnt the bottom a little bit, and it doesn't matter. They still taste really good. I'm definitely going to make these again. But this morning when I got up to make coffee, I went to light the stove and nothing happened, and I was like, oh no.
Power being at its best.
Yeah. Something always needs to be fixed. And right before we left, Pat redid all the propane lines because they had dry rotted and we had a little bit of a leak. So he redid all the lines, rethreaded them with that tape stuff so that there were no leaks. Everything seemed to be good. Apparently, I went out and checked and the first tank was empty because that was the one that was leaking before. And I was like, all right, like I did a lot of cooking yesterday, like making these. We just switched it over to the other tank, but the other tank also had a leak before, so it's not 100% full. So we might have to stop and get propane when we're leaving here and going to our next site. We have a backup. We have the Coleman stove with like the small propane canister, and I guess I'll have to maybe scale it back on the cooking a little bit for the next couple days. It's funny, usually when we camp for a little while, we like go home a few pounds lighter. I don't know if that's going to happen on this trip.
Yeah.
So now we're just trying to figure out what we're going to do for today. Pat's taken off the empty propane tank to put in the Jeep just in case we go into town and we can get the other one refilled. I just feel better having a little extra propane. And of course, we switched from our hookup sites where we had electric to dry camping, and that's when it becomes really overcast and we're not getting much solar, but that's all right. We're okay with not having too much electricity for a few days. We can always just use our headlamps and that kind of thing, so that's fine. Yeah, the big question is what we are going to do today, because we had originally planned on doing the big hike of all the waterfalls today, but there's a chance of thunderstorms. So we're kind of like, maybe we should wait until tomorrow, but we also don't have any service, like 0 on both of our phones, so we can't check the detailed weather. We're gonna have to figure out a better way to do that. So I think we're just gonna drive until we can find some service, check the weather, and then come up with a plan to see what's the best thing to do today, or if we should wait until tomorrow to do that bigger hike. Actually, you can see the fog over here.
Yeah.
So this is the hill that we came in on. We're going down to get firewood because they don't have any firewood at the office. Oh, this poor truck.
Oh, you're have to floor it.
Oh man, look at him. He's crawling. Oh.
It's doable.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
man. So we saw the sign on the way out. It's an 18% grade, which I don't even remember seeing 18% when we were in West Virginia, and those were some serious hills. But the poor Jeep, I've never heard it struggle the way that it struggled on the way in. And then we were looking at the map, and it actually had a warning on the map that if you have a larger rig, don't come in on this road. And I could see why.
Yeah.
It was challenging. Definitely, probably the most challenging hill we've tried to come up.
The engine was okay to handle it, but I was just worried about maxing out anything that it'll find a weak spot. Or what I was having more problems with the tire grip.
Yeah, it actually felt like the Jeep was kind of
It wasn't skipping, but it was close to it.
Because 18% for a half mile going up is that's a challenge.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess we should be proud of the Jeep because it handled it.
Yeah,
so that's pretty good.
We're okay.
Just a few miles up the road, we stopped at Bear Fuel, and they solved all of our issues. We got firewood, and they filled up the propane tank. We're just gonna stick to short hikes today. So we came down to the Evergreen parking area and we're gonna do a short loop down here, and then we'll probably go up to Grandview and do another short loop up there. We're just checking out the All Trails app. It makes it so much easier to just pick a trail when situation changes, because we don't know when it's gonna start raining or thundering, so we don't want to get too far away from the car or the campsite. But this looks nice. It's one of the last old growth forests. Just a few steps away from the parking area is the lowest of the waterfalls, and it's so interesting to see how the water has carved these pathways and pools into the rocks that it goes over. The Evergreen Trail is a 1-mile loop that is rated as an easy trail. And it's nice because the Upper Waterfall Trail is a little bit strenuous, so this is more accessible. And along the trail there are these plaques that teach you all sorts of interesting things about the forest. This is called a nursery log because it is the host to so many different insects and plants and is an important part of the life cycle in the forest. It's also why a lot of campgrounds ask you not to collect wood, because they want to leave the wood on the ground to help that natural process. This is a very nice quick hike, a good warm-up for tomorrow from the parking area. The waterfall is right there. The downside of that is there's a lot of road traffic because the road is like literally right above the waterfall, but kind of gives us an idea of what we have to look forward to tomorrow when we do the full one. Now we're getting ready for the second short hike of the day. We're, I guess, like halfway up that awful hill. So that's nice. There is like a little spot to pull off if you need to rest for a bit. So it's the Shale Pit Trailhead, and we're going, trailhead's right over here for Grandview. Grandview is just over a 2-mile loop trail off of the main road. So it was basically like double track, like there's a truck coming up here, and then you come up to the fire tower, which I bet if it was open and you could go up, it would probably be an awesome view, but not open. So
Go down here just a little bit.
no view. Yeah, we're gonna
on.
see if maybe it opens up a little bit down here, but really there's no view. Very misleading.
That's why it goes sometimes with hiking.
I know, hit or miss.
It'd be a dud.
Gosh, good thing we stopped to think for a second. We would have stepped right on him.
We go over?
I don't know. He looks pretty comfy too.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't go this way.
Yeah, maybe it's telling us not to. He's like, just stay back.
Oh, he's moving. Okay.
Nope.
You really have to do watch on the trail when it's sunny though. This is definitely a Pennsylvania trail living up to its name. We're basically just climbing over rocks. Good old Rocksylvania. It's a good foot and ankle workout anyway, even though there's no view. They need to change the name of this trail. So lessons learned. Don't go by the name of the trail.
Yeah.
I think it was good exercise. We burned some calories. And the trail wasn't too bad.
No, 2.1 miles. So
Now we're gonna do something different and go check out the beach. We found a picnic table and started to unpack, and I started to make coffee. But just as we were starting to get settled and enjoy the view, we heard the distinct rumbles of thunder coming at us.
So the Scamp, it's gonna rain like soon hard. A little bit of rain.
I thought it was gonna blow by, but yeah, it came earlier than it was forecasted. So it wasn't supposed to rain until 4, right? It's like 2:45 right now.
I'm glad we didn't go out for a long hike.
Definitely good that we checked the weather, because we were like, oh, it looks like maybe it'll clear up. But yeah, if we were hiking and it started thundering like this, that wouldn't.
And this is supposed to be going till like, what, 12 o'clock?
Oh, really?
11 o'clock tonight.
Oh, so maybe no fire.
Yeah, well, we got a lot of wood to burn too.
We got wood.
We got plenty of it, so.
So maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll just burn some.
We'll just make cake tonight.
Ooh, cake.
It's quite thundery.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, we don't want to be on the trail right now. It's also a good time to not be tent camping, because we can just hang out in the Scamp and be safe and dry. I do not like being in a tent when it is thunder and lightning. That thunderstorm rolled by pretty quickly, actually. And Pat's getting the refilled propane back on there, so we're all good to go with that. Sun's back out, and it's still kind of thundering. But the battery's actually fully charged. This solar panel does a pretty good job of keeping us topped off. And we're kind of careful. We don't leave a lot of the lights on. We'll use our headlamps more, but it does a pretty good job. We've been here 24 hours and the battery's still full. So we are going to try to put the tarp up, because we're still messing with our tarp setup to like get it to work well. And it's gonna rain again, so we're hoping if we get the tarp up we can sit outside a little bit so we're not stuck inside the rest of the evening. Good thing we got this up quick. I'm glad we practiced this at Bass River so we knew what we were doing, because we pretty much had the idea figured out. And it worked well. I think we did a better job this time because we kind of knew what our points were going to be. So this will be nice. We'll be able to sit outside if we want to stay out of the rain. All heck just broke loose. You know, we were like, oh, I don't know if the awning's going to be alright in high wind. All of a sudden it was like a small hurricane. Pulled the awning down and started throwing stuff everywhere, like throwing our stuff off the table. The hammock, oh my gosh, the hammock's being like tossed around. We just threw the tarp in the back of the car and ran inside. That was nuts.
That won't hold any tarp up.
No, if your RV awning was out, that would have been bad. Thank goodness we are not hiking right now. This would have been awful. I really cannot wrap my head around the weather today. A little while ago it was like the end of days, and now it's beautiful. We were thinking there was no way we were going to be able to have a campfire after that last thunderstorm rolled through, but here we are. Sun's out, a little bit of a breeze, not bad though, and pleasant. So I'm making dinner and Pat's getting the fire started. It was crazy. The chairs were flying, the awning got ripped down in like 2 seconds, and a minute before that I was sitting there talking to Pat like, oh, maybe I'll cook dinner outside, it's just drizzling a little bit, this is no big deal. And then it was like somebody snapped their fingers and the wind went crazy.
That's some Duratio stuff.
It was, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I was like, oh no, is this a derecho? Because that's how it happened in South Jersey. It was, they were just calling for like strong thunderstorms, and then that all happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we can salvage the evening. It's pretty good. Just as fast as I cooked dinner, it's starting to get gray again. So I don't know. I cannot figure the weather today. Wind is picking up a little bit. Pat got the fire set up, but I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna happen. We're gonna eat and then see what it looks like. We were determined to spend as much time as possible outside, so we sat at the picnic table and ate our dinner, but we watched as more gray clouds rolled in and we could hear the thunder getting louder and louder. We tried to have our first campfire of the trip, but the rain says no. We were sitting there, we could hear the rumbles of thunder getting closer. And then we could feel a few drops of rain. We were like, here it comes. So we came back into the Scamp. It might pass. We could kind of see some clear sky out in the distance. So we're hoping maybe the fire will, I don't know, maybe it'll make it through and we can go back out and sit. But this has been one of the weirdest weather days ever. I guess that's mountain weather for you. I think I've had every piece of clothing that I have on and off and on and off trying to regulate temperature and everything, but very strange day. Today is my favorite kind of day, hiking day. We're really lucky because the weather looks like it's going to be perfect today. It's a little cool, which is actually great to start a longer hike. You don't want it to be too hot. It might be a little bit muddy because we got that good rain last night, and then more rain, and then more rain. Good hiking boots, and we're going to take our time, and we're bringing lunch, so we're going to make it kind of like a full day thing. We're going to do the main loop that Ricketts Glen is known for, which is the Falls Loop Trail, and I think there's like 12 waterfalls or something like that, so I'm pretty excited. I think it's going to be like my favorite kind of hike. Best of all, today is my birthday, so it's my favorite kind of thing to do on this type of day. It's the nice thing about being at a trailhead on a weekday. Yeah. Lots of parking. They said this trail parking usually fills up on the weekend. And it's a little after 10:30 right now. So not super early start, but pretty good for us.
Yeah.
The Falls Loop Trail is 8 miles if you do the whole thing, and about 1,100 feet of elevation gain. It's a very rocky terrain, but you get to see the best of the Glen's natural area. I highly recommend this hike. We so enjoyed it. Okay, so here's the decision. Do we take the hard trail, the red side, or the green side? I think we're going to go for the difficult trail on the way up. I like a good climb. The red section of the trail, which is marked as difficult, just stays closer to the water, so it's a rockier area. You have to be a little more careful of your footing, but if you can handle the rest of the trail, you'll probably be fine on that section. It was actually very nice. There were some sections of the trail that were a little bit muddy and slippery, but a lot of the trail actually has these beautifully built steps that must have taken a ton of work. So whatever trail crew did this, good job. And that makes the climbing parts much easier. Take layers off.
Yeah.
This one is Harrison Wright, 27-foot waterfall. Since this trail has 21 waterfalls, it is just one after the other. There's always something interesting to look at. Each waterfall that we passed along the trail had a different height, a different pattern of rocks, a different cascade to the water. It was so neat to see all of the variety of waterfalls, and I think I could look at waterfalls all day. As we continued up the gorge, we came to the area called Waters Meet, and this is where the trail divides. The two streams come together, and you can take this bridge to the right, or you can continue straight up and toward the left, which was the route that we chose.
Pretty cool. You can see it dripping coming through. Yeah, that's cool. I kind of want to do this in the winter.
This would be very different in the winter. Doable. Yeah.
Yeah.
We could do a cabin
Yeah, I'm down. New Year's again.
and then get spikes for our boots.
We're both missing the dog. We keep seeing dogs on the trail. So yeah. Maybe next time.
As we continued up the left side of the falls trail, we came to the tallest waterfall on this route, which is Genoga Falls, which is 94 feet in height. When we got to the top of the falls trail, we turned right toward the Highland Trail, which connects the two forks of the falls trail. You don't realize how loud the falls are until you get to the top and you're like, oh, it's so quiet. The upper part of the falls trail is shaped like an upside-down triangle. We went up the left side, and then as we crossed over to the opposite side, we stopped by a stream to enjoy lunch. If we're going on a longer hike, we will often bring our backpacking stove, and this is nice because if we stop, we might want to make something hot for lunch, or we might just make coffee and sit and relax, because what's better than having coffee in the middle of the woods? Pretty nice spot to stop and have a coffee.
Some Starbucks instant.
Yeah, Starbucks in the woods. Heading out of our nice little lunch spot. We're just going down now, right?
Yeah.
We just have the last piece of the triangle. Some more waterfalls on that side. As you hike along the Falls Trail, you get to see some very interesting rock formations. Some of them are natural, like this one, and some of them are man-made through the very intense trail work that must go into maintaining this heavily used trail. The trail is very well maintained. I'm kind of amazed by like the amount of trail work. Yeah, hats off to the trail crew, because moving these stones and getting them all lined up like this is a lot of work. I did a trail crew in New Hampshire, was it like 6 years ago? Yeah, we had to carry all the equipment up the mountain and then actually start the work. So it was the most physically demanding thing I've ever done. If you are a hiker and you ever get the opportunity to do some trail work or to be part of a trail crew, I highly recommend it. I spent a week in the White Mountains of New Hampshire with the Appalachian Mountain Club, and it was a very physically demanding experience, but it was a lot of fun, and I got to meet some great people, and I've never really looked at a hiking trail the same after that experience. I can only imagine how much work it was building this stone staircase right on the edge of the falls in such a challenging location, but they did it beautifully, and the steps make it a lot easier to access this area that would otherwise be very difficult to hike. I was also glad that we took some time beforehand to do some workouts going up and down bleachers. That is a way that we find really gets our legs prepared for doing a hike like this. One of my favorite things about hiking this trail are the areas with these cascades on the sides of the rocks. Since it rained so much yesterday, I'm sure this was extra active, but the water would catch the sunlight and sparkle like crystals. I just saw something move and I thought it was a worm at first. It's so cute. We finished the rest of the descent down into the Glen, and when we got back to Water's Meet, I felt like I could have turned around and hiked the whole loop again, but we were getting pretty hungry, so we headed back down to the parking area to go back to the Scamp. That was a extremely enjoyable hike.
Yeah.
It's like 10 after 4 right now, so we left at what, 10:30?
Yeah. On the trail about 4.5 hours.
We were taking our time. We stopped a couple times, checked out the waterfalls, had snacks, but yeah, 21 waterfalls in a day is pretty good hiking, and the trail is neat with like stone steps and everything. It's just kind of everything you want in a hike, all crammed into a small area. So now we're gonna head back, and hopefully we can actually have a real campfire tonight, and some food and some cake. The first thing on the menu tonight is these roasted red potatoes with garlic, butter, and rosemary, and I made that in the Onmia. And I put it with some mushroom risotto, which is one of my favorite things. So hopefully this mushroom risotto is pretty good. I didn't make it from scratch. This was from a mix because I am camping. But it smells great. And then there's going to be cake.
It's going to be a little bit vanilla-y.
Extra vanilla. Never heard anyone.
So I'm going to be doing this for the next 45 minutes.
You want to take a guess how long you think it's going to take?
It's at least 45 minutes.
Seriously? No.
30? Good 30.
Alright, well.
Good solid 30.
You have some strong hands.
Do it?
You will.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 7:44. You did it.
About a half hour.
Looks good. Now let's just hope the cake comes out okay.
Yeah.
If not, we'll just have ice cream with whipped cream on it.
Okay,
That still sounds pretty good.
that's fine.
While I finished making the birthday cake, we looked outside and we had a little visitor on the hill behind our campsite. Things must have been smelling really good around the Scamp at that point. As I was finishing up the food, Patrick was getting the campfire ready, so we finally had some good weather to enjoy a campfire. We have our cake from the Onmia. We have the whipped cream that Patrick worked so hard on. And then we picked up strawberries and cream ice cream at the store because we were going to get strawberries, but we couldn't find any fresh strawberries. We figured next best thing. So that's the celebration. No candles, but actually I think this is better. We finally get to enjoy our campfire. We were half expecting it to start thundering as soon as we sat down to enjoy the cake and ice cream, but the weather cooperated. Now Patrick might need some hand therapy after making that whipped cream by hand, but it was definitely worth it. The combination of cake, the fresh whipped cream, and the strawberries ice cream was so good. How's your hot dog?
Doing pretty good. First time for me.
You've never made a hot dog over the fire?
Nope.
I feel like about 50% of the time it just falls in. You don't get to eat it. I think the hike today was one of my top 5 favorite hikes that we've done, just because it's waterfall after waterfall. What was it, 21?
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing. I mean, normally you do a hike just to see one, and it's not even that big. These are like big waterfalls. And we were lucky that it was a weekday, because it was still pretty busy even on a weekday. I can't imagine on a weekend, those narrow little rock stairs, you're probably constantly having to stop and like wait for somebody else to go by.
On the hike, just don't wear flip-flops. I don't recommend that.
No flip-flops,
Yeah.
and no sneakers either, because a lot of people were in sneakers and they were sliding a lot. And I'll wear like trail runners sometimes if we're on an easier hike, but I knew it was going to be rocky, and it rained yesterday. And I'm sure it wouldn't even have to rain, and a lot of like the spray from the waterfalls probably keeps the rocks wet all the time, so they were pretty slippery. And we had our really good hiking boots on, and it was still a little precarious sometimes. Actually, at the end, we both kind of like fell on our butts at one point.
I slipped once in the beginning, and then you coming back.
I feel like it would be really easy to get hurt if you didn't have the right footwear on that trail. I think it's a good thing you didn't wait, because you were thinking about doing the proposal there.
Oh yeah, that wouldn't.
I don't think it would have worked.
That wouldn't worked. No.
There are too many people. It's like one of those things that's good in theory. Like in your head, you're picturing it like waterfall, and it would be so nice. But there would be like people walking by. It wouldn't have worked. And the chances of you losing the ring before that would have been pretty good. We hiked 8 miles in Pennsylvania.
We didn't go anywhere.
0 ticks.
Yeah.
It's just the barometer is so different. And I have to kind of think, like, when we're walking through grass, I'm like, oh no, ticks, chiggers.
Is it worth it?
Here, I don't have to worry about that. It's fine. Like, I can walk through ankle-high grass and not panic. At home, that just is a bad idea.
Yeah.
That will lead to weeks of torturous itching. So tomorrow, we're switching gears a little bit. We've kind of done our hiking and camping thing by ourselves, and now we're actually going to be meeting up with Patrick's brother, Andy, who has been on the videos before, and a group of friends that he goes off-roading with in the Jeep Club. And a couple of the guys have been on the other video that we did for the Jeep when we did the South Jersey trip. But We're going to be meeting up with them at Bald Eagle State Park to do some off-roading, mild off-roading.
Yeah.
We're not doing anything crazy, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be like a different element to our trip. You know, the way the past year has been, doing anything social is like a treat now.
Hot dog done.
Hot dog done.
Good job.
One of my favorite things about when we travel, especially a place like this where right now I don't have any cell phone coverage, no internet, I don't have a computer anywhere near me, which is very unusual, is to spend some time either reading or writing or a combination of both. And sometimes I kind of joke that when we go on a longer trip like this, I call it the Great Reset, because it pulls me out of my day-to-day routine, which can be where everything is kind of out of habit. Get up, make coffee, get dressed, go to work. There's not a lot of thinking, there's not a lot of like going beyond the surface. When I do have those spaces of downtime, it's usually filled with some sort of entertainment or distraction, like watching YouTube or scrolling through things on my phone or reading articles. When we're out here, I have no choice but to spend time with my thoughts and try to figure things out. And I think especially one of the reasons that we tend to go on trips for my birthday or for Pat's birthday is to give us a little bit of space to think about things, because birthdays are kind of like a time of self-reflection. It is starting to rain again. We kind of just took our time this morning. We don't have to be out of here technically until 3, so we were just taking our time, and we have to kill a little bit of time before we check in at the other place and meet up with the group of people. So we're probably going to start heading out in a few minutes and try to find somewhere that we can charge the camera battery, because this camera battery is about to die. This is the only one we can't charge off of USB. All the other ones we charge off of either this little portable one, or we can plug into the Jeep and charge, but this one needs like a regular plug. Okay, all ready to get on the road. From Ricketts, Glen, we were heading just over 2 hours west to Bald Eagle State Park. We were staying at the rustic campground on the opposite side of the lake. Now, we're pretty used to traveling and camping in the rain. If you live on the East Coast, it's just a normal thing that you can't avoid. But being that this was kind of summer, if you consider after Memorial Day to be the official start of summer, we were not expecting this cold, rainy weather at this point in the season. It was really pushing us to our limits, and this was the first time that Andy had tent camped since he was a kid, so it was a rough weekend to get back into camping, especially since our heater was still broken.
Actually, I forgot. I got a cover for the Jeep. I'll put it right here.
Okay. Got the tarp set up, which is an absolute necessity. Andy's tent is right over there. And we retreated into the Scamp because it has just been constant rain. And so dry camping. We don't have any water or electric. Actually, where's the water? Do we have like a water spigot or something?
Yeah,
okay.
I'll do
Go grab some water. Yeah. But we're right next to the pit toilets, so at least we can do pit toilets and maybe find a dump station. But I don't know if we're gonna use our tanks here.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe we don't have to use the bathroom. We're gonna go on a hunt later for some showers. Yep. It is cold. Yeah. I can't believe our heater's broken. This is really terrible. Remember before we left, I was like, oh no, like...
Summertime.
It's almost June. It's usually like 90 degrees, 80 degrees, you know, in that ballpark. But at least we stopped at Wegmans on the way and got some food. So I'm heating up some mozzarella sticks, and we got a bunch of like produce and stuff. Wegmans is pretty awesome. So let's hope tomorrow is a...
I'll take broken.
Less rainy day, yeah.
Broken clouds, broken weather. That'd be great.
As long as the rain breaks a little bit, because today it's just like steady, non-stop soaking rain. Like soak through your raincoat.
Yeah, I don't even know what I'm wearing now.
First time I woke up this morning, it was not raining and I was so excited. And then I went back to sleep and then I woke up and it was raining again. I was like, no. Oh, everything's wet.
I'm putting winter.
Everything. I have all my layers on.
I was like, I put this in there just as like, it doesn't take up much.
We're not going to need hat and gloves, but hat, gloves, winter buff. I'm freezing.
Yeah.
This is summer. Okay, I think the rain is slowing down for now. I know.
We have the tarp system's working.
Our tarp stayed up overnight. No crazy thunderstorms, and Andy had a little bit of a leak, but I think he said he fixed it. He was able to move his awning over. It's the kind of rain where it's just so heavy, it's going to eventually find a spot to get in somewhere.
If you can, especially if you're car camping, highly recommend this setup.
The awning. Yeah. Once everybody was up and ready to go, we headed out on our off-road exploration. Now, we weren't doing anything crazy on this trip, mostly just fire roads and forest roads, but Shannon put together a great route so that we could see some things off the beaten path in this section of Pennsylvania. We came to the town of Lock Haven, which is home to Lock Haven University, and the town was very quiet because school was out for the year, but we enjoyed the views of this town nestled into the mountains of Pennsylvania, right along the side of the West Branch of the Susquehanna River. As we continued on the trip, we crossed over the river and we followed along the other side right along the water for some very nice views of the river. Oh, the railroad tracks up there, okay. Oh, that's neat, between the river and the railroad track. Very cool.
Unique area. Awesome houses. Like, look at this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that log cabin.
That's my shit.
Oh my gosh.
Right on the water. Drop in.
Go kayaking every day.
You could have like a little crew boat, like a skull right here. That get you in shape.
Sorry about that. Following the app on my tablet. Sometimes the turn-by-turn instructions kind of lag a little bit.
Jeez.
So does your walkie.
It's the furnace. Pretty cool.
I guess you
We headed out of the town and up into the mountains, into this very deep, thick forest. The only thing that we would see was the occasional hunting cabin, but most of this is untouched forest. in our group, there were quite a few different vehicles. There were a couple of trucks, there were a couple of modified Jeeps to do off-roading, and then there was us in our stock Jeep Cherokee. So the roads were nothing too extreme because this was designed for everybody to just come along and enjoy being off pavement. And this was our first real trip of taking our Jeep Cherokee off pavement, so it was a very good introduction. Since we still had to hook up the Scamp and get it home at the end of the trip, our main goal was to make sure that everything stayed in working order on our Jeep so that we could get the Scamp home. Compared to our usual activities of hiking, this is just a completely different pace, and it's amazing how much more ground you can cover, how much more you can see in a day when you have a vehicle to get where you want to be. Down the other side of the mountain now, and it stopped raining. We're really lucky. It's still like 49 degrees out, so it's still pretty chilly, especially for this time of year, but that's I guess the lesson of the mountains. You have to be prepared for all weather, all times of year. But the good thing is, since we have a bunch of people all driving in a row, since the roads are pretty damp, there's not a whole bunch of dust, because that can get kind of annoying. But, and the forest looks really, really neat because of all that rain yesterday. Everything's like damp. Cool. At this time of year, all of the foliage is new, and it has this deep emerald green color. Especially with the rain and the cloudiness, it really enhanced the greenery. And it just felt like we were driving through this sea of green.
Oh, yeah, those who are worried about pinstripes, maybe.
We came down from the mountain and found ourselves alongside the river again, in between the railroad tracks and the river. Listen.
About 5 miles of this along the river.
I know Patrick would love it if we could keep Metallica in the background as the soundtrack to this video, but copyright rules being what they are, we definitely can't do that.
Eventually loop around back to where we originally lived. We got a loop to get back.
We kept driving along the side of the river until we were able to find a spot where we could stop and take a break and stretch our legs, because we had been driving for a while at that point, and to get an opportunity to take some pictures of the Jeeps. We headed back to the vehicles after getting a little bit of a break because we had one more big stop on the trip, and so far the rain was holding off. I know, taking them off, putting them back on, taking them off, putting them back on.
That's just the way it is. Like,
We were going up another mountain to Heiner View State Park, and this is supposed to have a spectacular view. We were just hoping that the rain would hold off long enough and the clouds would give us just enough space to take in that amazing view. Oh, we're going up there. Okay. We continued our exploration of Pennsylvania on our mild off-roading trip. This part was paved as we headed up to the state park. We were going up to an overlook at one of the higher peaks in the area. And this is a space that's very popular with hang gliders. Line them up. Oh, there's bathrooms. Backing in. Like so many of the places that we've visited recently, this was created by the CCC. And you could see the characteristic stonework that you see at many locations that were built by the CCC. I feel like it's the same statue we saw in Florida, isn't it?
They're everywhere.
They are.
I wonder what would happen if they weren't around. We wouldn't have any of these parklands.
No. Probably did work for them back in the day.
Yeah, hard.
Thanks to all of that hard work, now we are able to come to this overlook and enjoy this beautiful view. Even when it was raining and quite foggy, it was still just an amazing view.
Wow. Yeah.
That's probably the ramp that makes that show off.
We passed them down there, didn't we? Yeah, yes we did.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we passed all the way down along there.
Oh.
On the other side of the river, there's one of those fields over there. One of them, it shows it on the Purple Lizard map, like the landing area is somewhere on the other side of the river.
I don't know how long you go.
I am thinking that that is not for me. I would take pictures of it when you guys do it.
Since the weather was not good today, we didn't get to see any hang gliders. But when we were leaving, we met a man at the gas station who was filling up before heading up to Heiner View State Park, and he had all of his equipment to hang glide on top of his van. And he said if you come up here on a nice day, you will probably see several people taking off with their hang gliders, and it's a really neat thing to see them go down the ramp and then just glide over the valley. That's a pretty cool stop. Good view. Back into the rain though. It's definitely worth stopping if you're in the area to check out that view, especially if it's a nice day and you get to see the hang gliders. At that point, we had been driving for quite a while, and we were starting to head back toward camp at Bald Eagle State Park. But we had a little bit more off-roading, a little bit more forest roads to explore through some of the very thick Pennsylvania woods. I can't get over how dark the forest is here. It's like really dense. Patrick had turned on his All Trails app when we left that morning, and it was tracking the route that we were taking, which is nice because if you ever want to go back to that area, you can have that route saved, and it tells you how much elevation gain and how much distance you covered. We did the recording on All Trails, so it was 105 miles altogether. We were out for about 5 hours, and then here's the route. Yeah, there you go. We went like up and down 2 mountains. That's neat. The route that we did that day was about 105 miles, and there was an elevation gain of 6,500 feet. So I'm very glad that we were doing that in a vehicle and it wasn't a hiking trip. We headed back over the bridge across the Susquehanna River into the town of Lock Haven and then headed back to Bald Eagle State Park.
It's just
on the road. The layout seemed to us like maybe they had an access road or something that was built in this area, and they thought, well, let's put some campsites along the edge to make use of it, especially because the bathrooms and the water access points are in very odd places, and when we were leaving, we would also see that the dump station had a very odd placement, but we were happy to see that everyone's tarp was still up as we came back to our camping area. Even the tarp that was attached to the Scamp, it did really well in the rain.
I whipped this for 30 minutes. Literally.
You beat its head?
Yeah.
Don't get used to this. This is not normal.
Oh, okay.
More,
Get rid of me.
more finesse jab.
Whipped cream. It was a good first day of the trip. It was a nice route. We got to see a lot of different sites that you wouldn't normally see if you were on the main roads. And everybody came back with their vehicles in one piece, which I know was our goal, so that's always nice.
I sent a text message out. It's time to go. Let me break.
Yeah.
Okay.
After over 5 hours in the car, we were definitely ready to head back to the campsite and settle in for the night. One of the tricky things about camping when it's raining is that once things get wet, nothing dries. Even like our good REI camp towels that almost always dry for you to take the next shower, still wet, still cold. But we're gonna go over to the showers and hopefully there's hot water, and then cook dinner, and if the rain holds out, have a campfire. The rustic campground only has pit toilets. There's no running water. So you have to get in your car and drive around to the other side of the lake to the Russell P. Letterman campground, which is the main campground at Bald Eagle, where they have most of the RV sites. And you get kind of a warm shower. But then we were ready to settle in for the night. We're going into day 3 of cold, damp, and rainy. And campground's starting to clear out, actually. The rest of the gang left. They're out driving. We're just like, slow start today. Slow start. Andy didn't sleep so hot. We woke up a bunch of times because the inside of the camper is so damp. The walls are sweating. Everything's wet. We woke up because the vent right over the bed every once in a while will just like drip on your face. So that's the point we're at right now. They're doing a pretty long trail ride today. I think they're doing longer than yesterday. So we were just like, couldn't get ourselves going this morning. So we're just gonna like figure it out as we go. I'm gonna play it by ear. And
Free play day.
Yeah, free play. Just kind of see, we're hanging out with Andy, see what he feels up to doing, see what we feel up to doing, because we got to drive home tomorrow. We're kind of not looking forward to that, but the good news of the day, we get to see Redford tomorrow. I'm very excited about that. Miss the Redford. Yeah, so we're gonna see what we get up to today. You know, it's raining a lot when a sinkhole opens up at the campsite. It was like this good 3-foot hole that Andy stepped in last night. We had a campsite that was right along the road. We were at number 21, but there are also some walk-in tent sites that are tucked into the woods. People up the hill at the walk-in tent site just left, and they said we could take their wood.
It's kind of hot.
It's a little bit of a walk.
Yeah, go on up there.
Well, it's actually pretty uneven and rocky.
Is it?
They actually had to spread out in the woods to...
Man, they left today, and I totally understand why. This is rough in a tent. It's pretty up here though, wow. Very uneven, but pretty. Holy. How do you set up a tent on this? It's raining again.
Is it?
Yeah.
Hot coffee and donuts?
Yeah, let's find a diner.
We're not that adventure-y. Am I on camera?
You are.
Is this shoplifting? They offered to. I know.
When you're the hardier ones and you stay the extra day, you get the extra firewood.
Yeah.
We decided to come into town and just kind of walk around, do a little exploring. Parked over here by the water. It's very pretty. After walking along the Susquehanna River for a while, we decided to head into downtown Lock Haven. It's a very cute town, and we wanted to see if we could find somewhere to have lunch. Now, the town was very quiet because this is a college town. They have Lock Haven University here, and it was the end of May, so college was out for the summer. And I think that's why the town was very quiet, and actually most places were closed, so we did have a hard time finding somewhere to get lunch. We ended up heading a little bit closer to the campground to find this diner. It was just the sort of leisurely afternoon that we were looking for our last day of the trip. We headed back to the campground and had some coffee with fresh whipped cream and started a fire while we waited for the rest of the group to come back from their ride.
I'm sewing all that when I get home. Sewing the hard top, 4 doors.
Oh, I thought you meant this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, that
And he's like, I'm never camping again.
If I do it, I'll get something more expensive than that thing.
Yeah.
No.
That's to keep the wind off you and make you feel like you're doing something.
They don't seam seal, like cheap tents, they don't seam seal them and they'll leak.
It's like, I was thinking about those yurts are pretty cool where you get a cabin somewhere.
Yeah.
Cabin and shower, I'm good.
You would like that place that we went to in Delaware.
Oh, yeah. Shannon brought that up yesterday.
Yeah. Their bathhouse was beautiful.
I could do that.
It was like a yurt right on the lake. And then the cabin that we stayed in was dog friendly. We brought Red. So, yeah, but the yurt, we were like, if we came without the dog, you can't have the dog in the yurt. We were like, if we didn't have the dog, the yurt had a deck on the back of it right on the lake. Oh, man. So cool.
I love yurts. I think they're cool.
Here they come. What time is it? 6:30.
Yeah, that's all good.
Yeah, we got 2 out of 4. We're
Uh-oh. Maybe they're at Walmart or something.
They lost the trucks.
Yeah, they're probably at Walmart.
That's awesome.
You need a funny hat.
Yeah. Wear your Budweiser hat.
Last price I saw
in stock
burn my lip. 5.5 for 1,000 rounds. Like, I'm not paying.
As everyone got back to camp, we settled around the campfire and we cooked some veggie burgers on the fire, which turned out very well.
Yeah, they got them in camo?
They make them.
We spent some time hanging out by the campfire, warming up before our last night of cold, damp camping of this trip. It's the last day. We're sort of up and getting packed. And the sun is finally out. At least we're gonna have nice weather for driving home, and we're not packing up in the rain because that's never fun.
I think I'd rather have nice weather packing up than setting up. Yeah. Although it was not my favorite experience putting stuff up in the rain. Yeah. But for sure, yeah. Glad to see the sun. Okay, ready to go?
Yeah, gotta go.
Well, that's a dump.
Dump.
I'll get out on the road.
Pat's dumping the tanks, and I always hear people talk about dump stations that are like well designed or not well designed, and I was always like, what? Dump station's a dump station, it can't be that bad. But the dump station here is on the opposite side on a one-way, so there's the do not enter signs. So we had to drive out the loop. Pat had to do a U-turn, drive the wrong way down a one-way, and go onto the opposite side to dump. Which, if we had a bigger rig, wouldn't happen. You wouldn't be able to turn around here. So I don't know who designed this, but they didn't think it out too well. Once the tanks were empty, Pat had to back the Scamp up and do a little bit of a K-turn to get out of there so that he didn't have to drive the entire loop going the wrong way. But thank goodness the Scamp is pretty nimble and we were able to turn around pretty easily, and then we got on the road for the 4.5-hour drive that we had home. It's nice to see blue sky. It looks so different coming out and it's not like raining. What a difference. There's just like 3 days of gray, wet, rainy. We get to enjoy the beautiful view as we leave.
The house up there.
Oh man.
People fishing.
It looks so different.
Go swimming in the summertime. Well, it is summertime.
Yeah, it is summertime. We kind of forget that. Remember earlier in the week we were like, maybe we'll get to go swimming. That would be great.
I didn't even wear my shorts.
It just broke 60 for the first time in like, what, 4 or 5 days.
The way it goes. Back up.
It's funny how the things you say at the beginning of the trip come back to haunt you.
It's usually true. Oh, we'll never do that. We'll never
It's
tarp
fine.
tent.
We don't need to fix the heater before this trip. It'll be fine.
Yeah. We'll never do that tarp tent stuff. Oh, okay. I did it for 10 days.
Tell you what, glad we kept the sleeping bags in the Scamp for that, like, just in case, because this trip was when we needed them. This was a really fun end to the trip, something completely different from what we usually do, camping with a group, and just awesome people to hang out with. Fun, doing some off-roading, something very different from our hiking. And that's kind of how we like to do it on trips. It's like variety so that you don't get just the same thing over and over, especially when we're out for 9 days. It's a pretty good time to be out camping. So we try to like mix it up and do different stuff. So this was a really good end to the trip. But now I am super ready to go home and see Redford. And do laundry and clean the Scamp. It's amazing how dirty it gets when it's just like crappy weather and everything's muddy. But I will say, like, our gauge of being able to travel, I feel like if we got a good reset day where we could do laundry and just clean out the Scamp, I think it would be fine to keep going. And there's like a bunch of other stuff in this area that we're like, oh man, I wish we could go check out that bridge or, you know, go hiking and see some of the other state parks. But one day we'll have more time to just keep going. If the dog was with us, that's the only thing. Gotta get the Redford. Thank you so much for joining us on this trip through Pennsylvania with our Scamp. It was definitely an eventful trip. We're looking forward to sharing some of our summer travels with you, including a trip to Assateague National Seashore and some highlights around New Jersey. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, you worried about you and me, the injustice, the next president to be, the news and what you hear, your career. It's time for you to face those fears, and it's all fair to be aware, and I'll be there, so don't be scared. Just take a deep breath of air, and 1, 2, 3 to 10, you begin to focus again, and though time flies, we'll have enough to realize this bigger than the both of us.